Today's training is about how to follow the pull of your heart. And the thing with following the pull of your heart is that there is a force that guides you. There's a force that guides everyone. It guides me, it guides you, it guides everyone on the planet. But the big challenge is that, and the big problem is that most people are following the guidance of their head. And they wonder why it is that they get into trouble, why it is that they have problems, why is it that things don't work, why is it that things feel like a struggle all the time. And the reason for that is that most people aren't following their innate wisdom. Most people aren't following the guidance that they're here to follow. And what happens in that is that they start to get confused, they start to get lost, they start to question what are they doing, right? But at a deeper level, you can always come back into your heart, and there's a pull on your heart, there's a force on your heart that guides you. And when you follow that, synchronicities become normal. And the big challenge there is like, okay, well, how is it that you actually come into that space within you? And then how is it that you actually start to follow your heart in the world? Because one of the big challenges that people have is like, oh, I think I'm following my heart. But if you're thinking about following your heart, you're not actually following your heart. And there's a very simple technique to tune into your heart, to feel that force and allow it to guide you. And this became very loud for me a few years ago. I'd just finished up engineering, a successful career as an engineer, and I was looking for a deeper experience of what it was to be alive. I was a bit over like all the stress and the worry and the anxiety of being in that world. So I bought a bicycle and flew over to Romania, and the intention of that trip, it was a seven-month trip, 4,000 kilometers, was to cycle to Paris. And that was symbolic of cycling away from engineering. That was the first part. And then the second part, I wanted to cycle towards, I don't know what, like towards what it was that I was meant to do here on the planet. And that first half, I was very efficient. I was very focused. And I had all of my maps, right? Like I had this whole front bag filled with maps. And I'd follow those maps. It was like, okay, well, today I'm going to do like 80 kilometers and I'm going to get to this place. And it was all planned, very logical, rational. And I'm going to get to this place and that's where I'm going to camp. And then the next day I'm going to get here and the next day I'm going to get there. And to be honest, it wasn't much fun. And there was this one day I was like, okay, well, I have to get to the next place. And I was up in Austria, in the mountains in Austria. It was quite cold, quite an altitude, and it started raining. And not just like little bits of rain, it started pouring down, and there was like rain. I started to get cold. I had all my clothes on. I was like freezing cold. And I had about 40 kilometers to go to get to this place that I thought that I wanted to get to, that I had planned. And I couldn't continue because I was literally too cold to continue. I was starting to shake and shiver, and I knew that I couldn't make it. And so I was going through this tiny little village. There's probably about 5 houses in this place, and reluctantly, because I felt like I'd let myself down because I hadn't got to my planned destination. Yeah, I locked up my bike and knocked on this door. It had a little orange sign out the front that said guest house. I knocked on the door and this lady came out, and she was full of life, full of smiles, and she said, "Hi, welcome, you're just in time." And I said, "In time for what?" And she said, "In time for the party." And I'm like, look, I don't know if I'm quite in like a party space. I was in a bit of a crappy mood. And she said, okay, well, we'll show you your room, you can have a shower, and then you can come down and have something to eat. I was like, yeah, okay. And so I did that, had a shower, came down, had something to eat. And her friends were sitting around the table. And one guy, he's like, oh, so you're from Australia? And I said, yeah. And he was from Germany. And he said, oh, I've been to Australia. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, how was Australia for you? And he's like, I'm a musician. I got a didgeridoo and I can't play it. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, yeah, and it's in my car. Can I get it for you and you can teach me how to play? And I sort of knew how to play. And he brought out this didgeridoo, and I was like, but this isn't on my plan. This isn't where I want to go. Like, this isn't like, I felt like I was wasting time. So anyway, we had this didgeridoo. I taught him how to play the didgeridoo. We had a great time. And then the lady, Silly was her name with a C, she said, well, tomorrow you can come and have breakfast with us. And I was like, yeah, but I've got to get to this place. I'm a bit behind. And she's like, look, you're coming to breakfast. And I got to breakfast the next morning. It was just a fantastic breakfast, like sausages and like all this sort of Bavarian type food. And she said, and where is it that you're going? And I said, well, I'll show you the map. So I got out my map, showed her, and had the whole route planned. It was about halfway through my cycle trip. And she said, yeah, look, you know, you can go that way. It's going to be pretty boring. Well, see this little road. And she showed me this tiny little grey dotted road on the map. She said, go up here. And I'm like, well, why would I do that? Because it's not the logical way to go. And she said, yeah, look, not many people go up this road. And what you'll find up there are these buildings that are so old, like they're over 1,000 years old, and it's above the snow line. And you can go over this mountain pass and actually get into Italy. And I'm like, really? And I don't know, something inside of me, it was like this strong pull. And this is what I'm talking about by following your heart. There was this strong pull to go there. And I was struggling with my mind. My mind was like, yeah, but this is going to waste time. You're not going to get to Paris on time. And so I went on my bike and I got to the road, the T intersection. It was one of those moments, sort of like out of a movie, right? And I was like, oh, do I go this way? Do I go that way? And luckily I felt this strong pull. And it was like, well, now's about the time when I cycle towards, I don't know what. And so I tuned into my body actually, and the pull was to go down this road. So I started cycling, and the trees started getting smaller and smaller. And in the distance, I could see like the snow on top of this mountain. And I'm like, oh, gee, yesterday I was so cold. I hope that's not going to happen again. And started cycling up. But it felt right. It just felt like, yeah, this is the way to go. And what happened, I saw the buildings, so like old stables for cattle, they'd take them there in summer. And I got up the top and there's literally snow like at head level on either side of this road. And it's like, I hadn't seen much snow because in Australia we don't get much snow depending on where you are. And I get up there and there's this little granite, like a bollard, and on one side it had Ostrich, like Austria, and on the other side it had like Italia, like Italy. And yeah, I was there, and beside it was this like old building. It was like a small little guard station. I opened the door, and in there were these newspapers from like 1941, 1942, and I was like, wow, this must have been a guard station during the war. And I'm in there, and something guided me to leave all of my maps with these bits of paper, or these newspapers. Now I don't know what it was, and my head was like, yeah, but where are you going to go? What are you going to do each night? And it started like all of this fear-based projection. I was like, look, okay, well, thank you for sharing. Came into a space of no mind, and followed that pull anyway. And suddenly I got cold, like freezing up there in the snow, and it was time to go. And I'm like, but where am I going? I had no idea. All I knew was on the other side of this mountain pass was a tiny little Italian village. So I went there, and usually I'd like plan everything, like, okay, I'm in this little village, I need to get food, I need to get water, I need to get something to eat. But I'm there, and I just like tuned into my heart, and it's like, okay, heart, where is it you want to guide me? And it guided me to this tiny little shop. I didn't know why. I went in, and on the menu it had like hot chocolate written in Italian. And I'm like, yeah, the guy spoke a bit of English and said, wow, can I have a hot chocolate? And this hot chocolate was just like amazing. I'd never had a hot chocolate like it before. It was in like a big cup, and I was like, wow, this is cool. And then, I got on my bike, and I had no idea where I was going to go. And I just started following the pull of my heart. And it's like, okay, well, my heart feels like going this way. So I followed that around. And the Italian drivers are just crazy. Don't cycle in Italy if ever you get the chance. And I ended up going over another mountain pass. I don't know what happened, but all this adventure opened up. And I came into Austria, back into Austria. And the next day it was, I was hungry. I went through this town. I was in the middle of this town, and my head wanted to Plandal. I went past all these pizza places, but the pull on my heart was to continue. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm hungry. And it's like, well, no, it's down this way. And I ended up cycling into a university. It was a university town. I'm like, why am I here? And the pull was to go straight ahead. And then suddenly I smelt like this barbecue. And I was like, wow, I started salivating. It's like, okay, well, this is where I'm meant to be. Followed my heart, found a queue for the barbecue, and I'm there. And all dressed in lycra, looked like a duck. I had my cycling shoes on. And this guy behind me was there. He had like long hair. He looked like a bit of a druggo. But my pull on my heart was to turn around and say, hello. So I did. I turned around and said hi, and he spoke English, and he'd been to Australia as well, and he actually invited me back to his place. And he said, yeah, you can come and stay. And I'm like, yeah, okay, because it felt like that was the pull. And said goodbye, he gave me the directions, and I went there, and he said, oh, yeah, it's by this lake. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But I went there and knocked on this door, and it was not by a lake. I thought it was going to be like 40 meters away from this lake. But it was like right on the lake. When I was like following the pull of my heart, he had this double-story place like right on the lake, like over the lake. And the lake actually came into the building, like underneath there was this little like boat shed. And he's like, hey, welcome. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing, And if I had been following my head, I'd probably be like an extra 100 kilometers down the road and would have missed this whole experience. And he's like, well, yeah, how long do you want to stay? And I said, I don't know, maybe a day or two. I ended up staying like 2 weeks at this place. And we had like white swans come up every evening that would eat out of the palm of my hand. And what I took from this experience is that often when I come into my heart, I listen to my heart, but then also follow the pull of my heart, beautiful synchronous experiences open up that I could never explain, all right? And it's like a joy and a freedom comes into my life when I follow the pull of my heart. And the heart coaching students have had, when they've followed the pull of their heart, so much happens that they've wanted to happen for so long, because there's a greater force that guides all things, and it comes through the center of your being. And when you tune into that and go with it, then life turns out the way that it's meant to be. So if this is something that you're inspired by, just say you're struggling at the moment, you've got challenges, things aren't flowing, you're feeling stuck, it's probably because you aren't following the pull of your heart. And if this is something that you'd like to tune into, if it inspires you, then book a call. So somewhere on this page you can select a date and a time, fill out a short questionnaire, and we'll chat one-on-one. And the thing is that if you're living from a headspace, okay, things are probably planned. You might be like in a routine. You might be feeling like, okay, I'm missing out on life, or you might be feeling like there has to be more to life, or you might be feeling like I'm just not in the right place. And the reason for that is that it's probably because you're not following the pull of your heart. And the reason for that is that we're not given techniques on how to actually tune into our heart let alone follow the pull of our heart. So if that's what you'd like to do, if you'd like to open up this new experience of being alive, then book a call with me. Just select a date and a time, a short application. It'll take 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll connect for 40-45 minutes on the phone. We'll get super clear on where it is that maybe you're stuck, where it is, like what's actually going on for you, where it is you'd like to be with regards to following the pull of your heart and living in flow and joy. And also some steps on how you can get there. There's usually 6 steps, 6 techniques, this pull of the heart being one of them. So thank you for watching this video. Book a call, just fill out date, time, short questionnaire, and I look forward to talking with you soon.